All right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. Good morning to everybody, and with us is Andrew Ebel, a good friend of mine, and we're going to talk about the good guys' 38th All-American get-together at Pleasanton, which is coming up. But first, let's talk a little sports. What's going on, Andrew? How are you?
Good. How are you? Glad to see you doing a new thing. It's cool.
Yeah, man, I'm having fun, and you're a big. We've known each other for years. You're a big Bay Area sports fan, so free agency's off and rolling in the NFL. What do you think? What do you think? What the Niners have done so far? Basically, they've added Charvarius Ward, they added Hassan Ridgeway, and a linebacker named Oren Burks. But goodbye DJ Jones, goodbye Tomlinson, the guard, goodbye Mostert. Today, Tom Compton and Trent Sherfield both left in free agency. Are you following the Niner free agent, happenings? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. There's a lot to unpack right there, but the one that jumps out probably the most to me is the Tomlinson departure. But Shanahan's never really put a lot of value on his guards, right? He's always kind of moved them in and out. So I'm not surprised by that, and I think we were all kind of waiting for that. But I love the Charvarius Ward deal. I think that's a great signing to have him and Jimmy Ward in the backfield now is going to be, I think, a huge improvement. So I'm super excited about that. And, I like where we're heading. I just, the DJ Jones, he was a little bit of a favorite of mine. I got to meet him a little bit during the year. And actually, I got to see him for the first time at the 49ers Foundation benefit early in the season. And he's just a character. So I think kind of a bummer to see him go as far as him being kind of one of my favorites. But I like what's going on. I think the thing that jumps out at me the most is that it's probably a little bit less about what we're doing and a little bit more about what's gone on with the rest of the NFC. I think that the route to the NFC Championship game has gotten a little bit easier now than it has been in the past because, first thing you got to do is win your Western division. And that's changed a lot with no more Russell Westbrook and all the stuff going on down in Arizona. So it's going to be an interesting season. I think the Niners are still going to be set up to be very competitive next year.
It wouldn't be a Niner conversation, Andrew, if I didn't ask you about Jimmy Garoppolo, right? I mean, it's like a mandatory comment. What do you think? I mean, we saw Garoppolo. Now there's talk that maybe he'll go to Cleveland, maybe Colts, maybe the Saints, maybe the Panthers. Trey Lance era probably going to begin. There was a brief flirtation idea with Tom Brady. What's your thoughts on Garoppolo? Do you want to? Are you one of these guys? Keep him, or good riddance? Time for Trey Lance. What's your thought on the QBs?
Well, I think the writing's on the wall, and I mean it's about money for the Niners first and foremost, right? They can't keep that salary and sign the other guys we need to, like Bosa and some of these other guys that are up for long-term agreements, and so it's clear to me. I think. The thing that jumps out at me, I think we're waiting for the ball to drop, right? Because I think when Deshaun Watson makes his decision sometime in the next day or two, or however long that takes, I think that's going to really open up the possibilities. But, my gut tells me he's kind of a perfect fit for the Colts. He just seems to be, that seems to be a team that is set up to win right now. It needs some leadership and stability. I got to see that game. I was at the rain game this year and, got to see that Colts team up close with Carson Wentz, behind the center. And, that's a good football team. And I think if they get a good leadership in there, that's a perfect spot for him. But, I think the writing's on the wall, Larry. It's time for him to move on. It's time for the Niners to get into the investment that they made with a guy like Trey Lance. And I have a belief I believe in Trey. I think he's got a lot of upside, man. We just need to get him in there. We need to have him play. He's got to play. He's got to get snaps.
Yeah, seriously. He looked pretty good. I mean, 2 starts, he looked pretty good. What's your thought on the baseball thing? I mean, Giants are making moves. They added Matthew Boyd to the rotation, but the lockout has ended. Finally, these two sides get on the same page, and we're going to get baseball. Yeah. From watching it from afar, are you like me, like eyes glossed over by all these details, or are you following it, super closely?
I'll be honest with you. I've been a little disenchanted with Major League Baseball, the way they've handled this whole thing. I thought I used to say they'll never let this happen again, and they let it happen. And fortunately, they came to agreement sooner than they have in the past. But I'm excited now that I start looking at what the Giants have. But I'm concerned too because, what I know about that Giants team and what I believe is that last year was one of those just crazy years where all the planets aligned, right? When you have, we got to remember that 2 years ago, this Giants fan base was ready for Crawford to move on, was ready for Belt to move on, right? Like it was like, we're done with these guys, get them off the payroll.
Right.
This is ridiculous. We need to start, getting some younger talent in, all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden they come out and they have just a phenomenal year, like career years. And so I think that, pragmatically, when we look at this, I think that it's going to be a tough road for the Giants this year. I think we're still going to be competitive, and Kapler's an amazing coach. But when you see God darn, the Dodgers just signed Freeman yesterday. I mean, that lineup is ridiculous. And with the addition of the DH into the National League this year, it's going to be just that much tougher. So, I'm very hopeful and I'm very excited about the season, but I'm kind of going into it with one eye open. And, if we have a good year, I'll be very excited. If it's a little bit of a rough year, I won't be surprised.
Before we talk good guys in this auto show coming up, give me your quick thought on the Warriors. Marcus Smart sheep shots Steph last night, sheep shots Clay. I mean, kicked, basically dove at Steph's ankle. Steph's now got an injured foot, I believe. Did some crazy kick on Klay Thompson. Kerr was pissed.
Yeah.
I mean, Kerr's got a temper, and it was awesome. He was like, man, he was just, he was giving Marcus Smart that from about 25 feet away. Give me your thought on Golden State. I mean, do they need James Wiseman to win a title? Are they going to win a title this year? Are they going to, be this team that it's all about next year and the future? What's your thought on Golden State? They've been pretty damn good.
Well, I mean, I think the key for Golden State's always and it will continue to be, Steph Curry. And, what I heard this morning is that he's out indefinitely right now with a ligament strain. And so, what that means, I'm not sure. I mean, the good news is that the Warriors have about 10, 11 games left in the season to wrap this thing up with about a month to go.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of what happens with the playoffs is going to depend on what the health of Curry is. I think we saw a little spark this last week when Draymond, re-entered into the picture on Monday, and we could kind of see a little bit of this team. You see the potential, I think. So again, I just look at it as this team's going to go as far as the health of Steph Curry at this point. But as far as James Wiseman, I don't know the answer to that because we haven't seen the dude play. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you could say he's going to help, but you don't know. I mean, and Looney's been so impressive this year. You watch that guy and the growth of him over the last 2 to 3 years, and he's just a solid, great defender. And I have a lot of belief in him. But I think it all just, Larry, comes back to the health of Steph Curry. I really do. I mean, Clay looks like he's back. I mean, that dunk he had last night was pretty phenomenal. That made me smile. I was very happy about that.
Eric Sully has weighed in here since we're going live, and he says, he's talking about Jonathan Kominga. He says Kominga is going to be special.
Yeah.
Kominga, Moody, Wiseman, Poole. Suddenly they've got their older core and a younger core, and it's like, can they get both these cores to kind of meld together and win a title? I mean, to me, I think it's an exciting time to be a Warrior fan because they got a bright future. They got a bright present.
Well, they have a problem, Larry. When you have that much good talent and young talent, that's when decisions have to be made, right? Because you can't just with the salary cap the way it is, you can't just keep everybody anymore. And that's the bummer part about those guys. When I look at Poole or Kominga and those kinds of guys, those guys got to get paid at some point. And so, you've got a lot of money still tied up in the big three, if you will, the Splash Brothers and all that. And so that's my biggest concern is just, can we keep all those guys? Because I want to be careful not to fall in love with a guy like Kominga, but it's hard because he's awesome. He's a guy that I'm drawn to. But I just get worried. But I mean, you're right. If they can find a way to keep that young talent along with this veteran talent for the next couple of years, the Warriors are just going to continue to compete. And I guess the greatest part about it is while those young players have amazing talent and ability, for the opportunity for them to get to spend time with those veterans and learn from the guys like Draymond and Steph, I mean, that's how you continue legacies, right, and dynasties. And so to me, that's kind of the fun part about it all.
Well, it's good to have you on the show today, brother. And let's talk about what your day job is, right? I mean, people see Andrew Ebel, but it's the good guys Hot Rod and Custom Association, and there's an event coming up March 26th and 27th at the Fairgrounds in Pleasanton. And I've been doing your guys' events and promoting them on the Leader for so long, and now we're promoting them here on the Krueg Show YouTube channel. Tell us about the Good Guys 38th All-American get-together in Pleasanton. I think one of my favorite. I loved going down there. Why? Because it was like Giants fans, Niners fans, Raiders fans, like real sports fans are oftentimes car guys as well. Just a lot of good people, some good food, some great weather, some cool cars, and it's just a killer show. And Andrew, there's so many people that have been cooped up with COVID and haven't been able to go where they want to go and haven't been able to go out to a simple car show and just have a beer and walk around and look at some cars and talk some sports and enjoy the sunshine in Pleasanton on the weekends. And you got all that coming up next weekend. Tell people about the show, man. I'm excited that, it's back, right? I feel like we're back to normalcy a little bit when I see shows like this. No longer is it like, no, we're canceling, we're rescheduling. It's like, hey, come on out, enjoy these cars, enjoy the people, enjoy the food, enjoy the all the festivities. Some great stuff. Tell us a little bit about the show.
Yeah, you just said a lot about it. Appreciate that. Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, it's all about cool cars, cool people, and good times, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of what we try and do. We're excited about this show in particular because it's one of our oldest, if not the oldest, show we have running on our schedule. And when we get good weather at this show, it's just a very special time. Sometimes we get a little bit shaky weather, but this year we're looking like it's going to be a really, really good weekend. But you're right. It's a great opportunity to bring the family out. It's really casual. It's outdoors. 90% of the event is outdoors. So, the COVID component can kind of go out the window and you can kind of still, create your distance if that's important to you. And I think it makes it very comfortable for everybody. Like I said, the whole family can come out. And you nailed it. I mean, you don't even need to be a hardcore car person to enjoy our show. It's just a great opportunity to get out, fresh air, get a cold beer, a cold soda, a corn dog, something that your doctor doesn't want you to eat, and just come out and enjoy it. And we've got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we've got our autocross racing competition, our CPP autocross series. And that's really fun because you got basically street legal race cars out there competing on a timed course, and people love that. We've got a burnout competition, people smoking the tires, and that's fun. The warning on that one is don't stand too close or you're going to have a debris on your face, and you might love that, so stand close if that's something you're into. Nitro Thunderfest, dragster exhibitions. We got vintage dragsters that come out and light it up, and we hand out earplugs because that's super important in that situation. And we'll probably have close to about 3,000 plus cars on the grounds. It's a show that's open to all years of American-made empowered vehicles, and so everything from modern day Mustangs and Camaros to early 1932 Fords. So it's a wide range of cool Americana. So you're going to see a lot of stuff, no matter how old you are, what generation you're from, you're going to see stuff out there that's going to take you back to being a young person. And that's what our shows are all about, right? To take you back a little bit and remind you of what it was like to be in high school, what cars were in your parking lot, and all that kind of cool stuff.
Oh, it's cool. And, it's funny. I remember one year I'm walking around and I'm like, dude, who is that 6'8" Viking sized guy with the beard? And it was former Raider offensive lineman Robert Gallery, who's a big car guy. And he lives out, I think, out in Pleasanton. And it's just a cool crowd. I mean, people just enjoying one another. Now, if people want either to register their ride or to get tickets for the show or just more details, overall on the show, the website is good with the dash in the middle, guys.com. Good with the dash in the middle, guys.com. It's on the screen for those of you checking it out on YouTube. And it's a good time. And as you said, when the weather's great, I mean, it's an incredible time. People walking around, everybody's smiling. How many years have you guys been doing this in Pleasanton? I know this is a traveling show, so there are all different stops around the country, but how many years has it been that you guys have been doing the show out in Pleasanton?
38 years. Yeah, this will be the 38th show. Actually, 39 because, wait a minute, I guess this will be 40 because we lost basically 2 years due to COVID, right? Okay. We didn't have the show in 20. and we didn't have it again in 21. So it'll be the first time in 3 years. So I think this will be 40 years since this show got started. So that's pretty impressive. Although it's a 38 show, but yeah, right. 40 years on the deal. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's our story is a really cool story. A lot of people who don't know it, it's always impressive to them. But, it was started back in 1983 by Gary and Marilyn Metters, who are our founders. And, it was an idea that was founded on Gary being a big car guy. He was a sales guy, kind of an interesting story, but he was a salesman for Carter Wallace, selling different stuff here and there. And when he would travel town to town, this is the way the story was told to me. When he would travel town to town, instead of going out drinking beers with the guys, he would go shoot local car shops that were building cool hot rods, right? And he would do photography and he would submit that stuff. So he's a car guy. He was a hardcore car hot rodder, if you will. And his idea was basically, he wanted to create something where all him and his buddies and the wives could get together and bring their cars out. And the rest is history. I don't know. It's funny. I asked him when he was still with us, did you ever expect it to be like this? And he never thought it would be quite to the extent that it's grown. And so I think he's very proud of where we've been. And I know the family itself is very proud of what we've grown. And it's a really cool, it's a cool culture. It's a cool culture.
Now you guys travel the country. So this is how many weeks a year? Is this the full year, or give us an idea of is there a spot in America, in maybe Indianapolis or Daytona or someplace where this show really is explodes outside of Pleasanton? I mean, is there a stop on the tour that you're like, man, they love this show and it's it's the biggest, the biggest on the tour?
Yeah, we have probably two locations that probably outside of California are just huge monsters. And one of them is, we call it the big one, and that's in Columbus, Ohio. That's the Summit Racing Nationals, and that takes place basically the second weekend of July. But the show that's the week before that is in Des Moines, Iowa. That's our Heartland Nationals. And that show is probably the fastest growing show and probably, to me, the most fun of any show we do. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of it has to do, Larry, with the type of people that come out to the show. Those Heartlanders, those Midwesterners out in Iowa are just some of the nicest, coolest, welcoming people ever. And, when you're in a town like Des Moines, it's not a major league town at this point, right? We become one of those biggest events coming into the market. And we actually go every 4th of July weekend there. So we're sort of like the big community event in Des Moines, Iowa. And it's a trip. I always joke around, and most of the time we go into markets and we put on car shows. The one in Des Moines is more like we go throw a party and some cars show up. And that's kind of the difference. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a really cool vibe.
My first car was a 1970 Chevy Nova, and my dad bought it for my mom, and I got it by high school. So it was 1970. The car came into existence. I got it in 86. So it was already pretty old, but it had a straight 6-cylinder engine. Yeah. And if you opened up the hood, you could see basically down to the ground. And man, I can't tell you the number of times driving around in high school, somebody would come up to me, "Hey, you want to sell that? What's your engine?" I'm like, "It's a straight 6 250. They're like, "Oh, I'd put a 350 in that monster." And people love that car because it had a huge amount of room for a bigger engine if you wanted. Do you have you see all these different cars. To me, the Camaro series, 67, 68, 69, those 3 years, I love those cars. Is there, the Mustangs look cool. Do you have a personal favorite because you've seen every one of these cars and every one of these shows? Do you have a personal favorite model through the years?
That's so unfair. That's like asking who your favorite kid is, right? It's hard because I'm jaded because I do see, I see all the cars you're talking about, but I also see, the upper echelon, the most incredible builds that you could find. Because one of the things we have at Good Guys is we have this program called the Top 12 Cars and Trucks of the Year. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, there's 12 different awards, very prestigious. And, the top builders of the country are building cars for their customers to compete for these awards. And so they're so over the top, Larry, that you can't really compare. And so I think I don't really get caught up so much as into what kind of car I like. I think I get more caught up in the craftsmanship of the different kinds of cars that I see. And so from a favorite standpoint, I think what I kind of gravitate to more so is just things I don't see all the time, right? Things that make you kind of go, ooh, what's that? And it could be any kind of a car. It could be a 69 Camaro. It could be a 32 Ford. It can be a 2016 Mustang. But I think I do gravitate a little bit more to the stuff that's a little bit more out of the box. And then, on a secondary note, I probably also gravitate a little bit to mid 80s stuff and mid 80s to early 90s. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that that's my age, right? That was what was in the parking lot when I was getting out of school at 3:30 in the afternoon in high school and walking out and hanging out with the guys, right? So I think that was just a reality check of what my generation was into at that time. So, I love seeing 85, 86 S10s and Blazers, and I like seeing third gen Camaros and stuff like that because, that's my generation too. So, but yeah, no, I think it's just, I think that's the great thing about coming out to this show is that if you want to find your favorite car or cars, you're going to find them. And if you just want to come out and look for the latest trends and see what people are doing and the latest colors and whatever it is you're into, you can do that as well. And I think that's what makes our shows so cool because they're all inclusive. And, one of the cool things about this All-American Get-Together coming up is that we're going to have a special indoor lowrider display, which is amazing. Like the lowrider community here in the Bay Area is phenomenal. Coolest group of people ever. And they bring the craftsmanship on these cars are just over the top cool. And that leads into one of our of the year programs. And we're going to be naming the 2022 Fuel Curve Custom of the Year award here at this show. And that's going to be a pretty big award that we give away. And those cars will be on display indoors as well, the cars that are competing for that. So yeah, it's this will be one of those shows you can see some of those top-notch cars I was just talking about.
Yeah, the Custom of the Year is going to be big. Shout out some of your sponsors. You guys have had a bunch of loyal sponsors. You mentioned Fuel Curve. I know they're sponsoring the Custom of the Year, but shout out the sponsors and the people that have been with you through the years because, I mean, it's one big happy family, and this is a great opportunity to get some of those people some love.
Well, thanks. I mean, I appreciate that. There's so many, I can't list them all, but some of our bigger sponsors that title some of our shows, you can't go without thanking people like Summit Racing and Speedway Motors and LMC Truck and Griot's Garage, McGuire's. We have some of the biggest names in the business that actually support what we do. And not just financially, but also from a standpoint of coming out to the event. I think that's one of the really unique differentiation factors for Good Guys car shows versus some of the others that you go to, Larry, is you can go to a lot of car shows, but when you come to a Good Guys shows, you're going to have the top names in the business out there hanging out, showing you their product, right? And that's really important to the car guys, right? And the car gals. They want to come out, they want to be able to see, smell, touch the products. And that's one of the things that we afford them. And so, to have companies like Phytech Fuel Injection or, some of the other guys I mentioned out there, I'm probably missing a couple, Race Deck Flooring, to have those guys out there, it means a lot. And they are a big part of what we do at the event. And that's sort of the philosophy, it really takes our whole community, the whole industry coming together to put these shows on. And that includes, the manufacturers, the service providers, the promoter, who's Good Guys, the front gate spectators, the registered participant car people. It takes all of us to put the show on. So a lot of thanks goes to everybody to make these events happen.
Oh, it's such a fun time. Let's give people the rundown. It's the Good Guys 38th All-American Get-Together. It's March 26th and 27th at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see it there on the screen in Pleasanton. It's America's favorite car show. There's over 3,000 American-made and powered hot rods, muscle cars, trucks. They'll all be on display. Lots of fun stuff for the kids. Lots of great things to get involved with. Enjoy the outside. It's an outside show. It's inside and outside, but there's a lot of it's outside. And, if people want more information, and I know they do, go to good-guys.com. Good with the dash in the middle, guys.com. You can register your ride. You can get information and details on the show. And you, of course, can buy tickets as well. And you can also buy tickets at the gate there at the Alameda County Fairgrounds in Pleasanton. Weather should be great. Come out, enjoy some phenomenal weather. I agree wholeheartedly. We were there one time, and I think it was do you guys have a show in November?
Yeah.
And it was a downpour. And we're looking at each other like, oh, wow, and it's like hard to do it with a downpour. But then you come back to the spring or the summer shows, and it's like, wow, Pleasanton in all its glory and the perfect weather. And you're walking around and music and food and people, proud of their cars and showing off and polishing and talking. And it's awesome, man. So we're proud to be a part of it. Glad to promote it for you. And we'll hopefully do this again. And thanks for stopping by on the Krueg Show, man. We'd love to have you on in the future again.
Well, thanks, Larry. I really do appreciate all the support. And we'll definitely be back. And maybe we'll be talking a little bit more baseball the next time around as we get closer to our next event.
Sounds good, Andrew. Good luck with the show.
Hey, thank you. We'll see y'all out there.
Sounds